We are now bringing in Craig Shirley, New York Times best-selling author of The Last Act, The Final Years of Ronald Reagan. He's also, of course, a great presidential historian. I had the pleasure of having him on my show. Hello, Craig. How are you, sir?
Steve, how are you this evening?
Good, good, good. I'm doing well. I also want to welcome in J.D. Hayworth, of course, former U.S. Congressman. He will join us very shortly. He's also, of course, host of Newsmax Prime on Newsmax Television. So, Craig, your impressions of what we saw today up there on the stage?
I think in the final analysis, the big winner is going to be most of the Republican Party, if not all of it, at least the outsiders, not the insiders. And the big loser is going to be, in the short term, CNBC, and the long term, the national media. I think CNBC was an embarrassment tonight. Everybody from top to bottom, from Reince Priebus to everybody in between, has denounced them as their questions as puerile. They were silly. I thought it was supposed to be an economic debate. It came across more like the CV network instead of the CNBC network.
And how important do you think it is that not only Priebus and you and me and Dick and others have said this, but that they were called out first and most, I think, prominently by Ted Cruz and also by Marco Rubio and then by Chris Christie, who also had some harsh words for them?
Yeah, well, they definitely got the biggest round of applause, especially Ted Cruz, because I think it was the first to actually go after the moderators. I mean, I don't know what you call them. You call them partisan, or you call them gossip mongers or gossip columnists. They're certainly not professional journalists, not by any stretch of the imagination, as far as they exhibited tonight.
All right, the candidates up there on the stage talking about the politics of it, because after all, it was a presidential debate. Who do you think did themselves the most good?
I think clearly Ted Cruz, followed closely by Marco Rubio. I think Donald Trump held his own. He didn't score big tonight, but he didn't score poorly either. He kind of was kind of a staying action. Rand Paul came in poorly. Chris Christie did well also, and the rest were simply there. I think Carly Fiorina probably went backwards a little bit. Rand Paul was only asked 3 questions by my count, so that's my instant analysis for what it's worth.
And as far as, we had Sarah Palin on earlier, and she really liked some candidates, and some candidates she felt, didn't do much for themselves. But she also said that it's time, she wouldn't name names, but she also said it's time for some of them to just get out for various reasons, for the good of themselves, for the good of the party, for the good of the information that will be dispersed at the next debate if you have a smaller field. Do you believe that it's time for some of these to get out, and maybe you're willing to name some names?
Well, I think that they're all, Jeb Bush has been falling like a stone ever since the summer. His message is not getting through. People are not accepting it. And like it or not, this is a referendum on the presidencies of his father and his brother. And so far, now it's up to, 94% of Republican primary voters are giving a thumbs down to a Jeb Bush candidacy. So that can't be very heartening for him. He has the money, but he doesn't have anything else. There's no message there. There's no momentum there. There's no real desire to return to a Bush presidency. So I think he's going to have to look hard and fast. I believe in letting the free market decide these things instead of pushing people out. But the free market is winnowing out Jeb Bush right now, John Kasich, Rand Paul, and some others.
How do you think Donald Trump handled himself? Attacked off the bat, second question after they asked what your weakness is by Harwood. Is this a comic book version of a presidency? He also, was attacked by Kasich for wanting to build a wall, and one of the people up there, I can't believe he's up here, along with Ben Carson. He was also challenged on the bankruptcy issue again, and also on his visa position for high-tech workers coming into the country. How do you think he fared?
I think he fared just fine. I think everything's fair game, especially in this day and age in terms of national politics. As long as you're not questioning candidates' fidelity, sobriety, or patriotism, everything pretty much is fair game, including your business practices. So I think that what Trump was asked by his fellow candidates is fine. It's the questions he was getting from the moderators. Isn't it ironic? Is that the questions he was getting from his fellow Republican candidates were more substantive and more intellectual than they were from the moderators. Are you a comic book? What kind of question is that?
I couldn't agree more. Rick, I know you and I have agreed many times on the very, I guess, would you call it embarrassing performance by the moderators?
I got to tell you, I was just sitting here thinking, we all kind of agree on who was the best tonight. I think we all agree it was Cruz and Rubio. But I don't think that this debate's going to be remembered for the candidates. This debate's going to be remembered for what happened with the moderators. And it may do more, and Craig may not know this, Craig, I'm a progressive, I'm a Democrat, and I feel the same way you feel. This is going to resonate. This is going to have a large impact, I believe, on the future debates that we have throughout the cycle now. These guys took it further than it's ever been taken before, and they crossed the line. And in the long run, that may be a good thing for the quality of debates to come.
Craig, go ahead.
I couldn't agree more. I think they did cross the line, and it's going to force some people to reevaluate the whole debate process. Ryan Priebus, who is normally a very mild-mannered individual, put out a statement just blasting CNBC and their moderators. And I think that, look, if we all agree the Republican Party is a conservative party, and Reagan-esque in its orientation and Reagan-esque in its future orientation, then maybe we should ask some conservatives maybe at Newsmax should be hosting the debate instead of CNBC.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let me ask you this: was there a Reagan-like moment where I paid for this microphone? I mean, with all the bashing of the media, do you think anything is going to, be historically as significant, or just, rah, 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 they did a good job? Or was there something with Cruz's bashing them and talking about how the media, has to get their act together and these questions are terrible? Do you think that's going to be one of those moments?
I think so. I don't know if it was a defining moment, but I think the Republican Party as a whole kind of came roaring back in terms of standing up to the establishment as represented by CNBC, which by extension means the Washington, Wall Street, New York liberal establishment. Chris Christie got off a very good line, though, when he was asked about fantasy football, and he got off a great line about, even in New Jersey we think that's rude.
Yeah, but you know what? I got to tell you, I know Chris Christie's politics. I live in his state, unfortunately, and I got to tell you that if he'd be the first as a prosecutor, maybe even as a governor, if there was an implication of that there was some kind of fraud being perpetrated on the public, he'd be the first one to go after them. So I think he was being a little disingenuous. Although I did like the shot about even in New Jersey.